on a extremely hot day. We're here at a 50 Churches Act church. That wasn't one of the core 50 Churches Act churches. It looks the least like a church of any of the 50 Churches Act churches. In fact, it looks less like a church than almost any building in London that is a church. And of course, historically it wasn't a church. It was a priory. Well, I always assumed it was part of the city wall or something, but it's very, it's definitely well outside the city wall.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that though, because it's here because we are close to the city wall. So we're in Clerkenwell, Zone 1.
Yeah.
City of London is like 10-minute walk that way. But they built their priory here because it was close to the city. And I always think this is really weird. Zone 1 Clerkenwell was the middle of the countryside, and they would have had space for raising livestock. They would have been able to like really expand. There was a lot of empty open area, which is so hard to believe now that it's just the middle of London. I'm Rebecca. I'm curator here at the Museum of the Order of St John. We're outside the museum building now. Big Tudor gatehouse, built in 1504, but there was some form of gate entryway here long before that. The Knights of the Order of St John have been here for a really long time, since the 12th century. They were originally founded to provide aid for pilgrims in Jerusalem. A couple of years later, they also got stuck in with crusading. So they were there to provide aid for pilgrims who were maybe a bit caught up in the Crusades. We don't know why they also turned military. It's probably because they saw a lot of people making money, wanting to defend Christendom.
They're an order. Mm-hmm. So is the first thing I should think of is like a bunch of monks?
It is a monastic order.
Monastic order.
Yeah, monastic order. They gave vows of poverty, chastity, but they're referred to as Knights Hospitallers.
Yes.
So reflecting both that military aspect, that warrior, as well as the provision of hospitality and hospital kind of care.
Okay, but hospitality rather than medical.
Especially at this site. So they had a hospital in Jerusalem where they provided aid when pilgrims were out there. Yeah. But you can kind of think of this site a little bit as a head office. They didn't provide hospital, but they did provide hospitality. So there's loads of really important people would have visited this site. Again, it's really close to the City of London, a little bit outside. It was really palatial, it was massive, it was beautiful, and people would have come from quite far to receive the hospitality of the order.
Does that mean arms, or typically another upper class bod coming in and having a room for the night?
That's a good question. A lot of people that were involved in the order, you had to like trace back your lineage to prove that you were of noble birth.
Yeah.
And quite often it's going to be people like your third and your fourth sons, the ones that doesn't really matter. You've got your heir, you've got your spare, and you've got the other sons come and join an order where it doesn't matter that they don't have legitimate children anyway. We'll talk about that later. And it doesn't matter about passing on any wealth. So it was founded in kind of nobility. It was
like
a lot
of continuation of school in a
way.
way.
Yeah. It was a lot of incredibly rich and wealthy people that were involved. And when we head over to the church, I'll show you what is essentially the bank of the order, where they kept all their money. Absolutely.
This is wow.
We're in the stone store,
and
these are some of the original stones from the church, the medieval church. Like these two examples here are really nice. They're coloured, they're really colourful. And I think when we see churches now, and especially when we head over and have a look at what our church looks like currently, you think of them as kind of plain stone. Yeah. They were so richly decorated. And not only was it colour, it was different carvings. So this one here, you can see from the top of his body, is a dragon with his like little claws and his little tail. There was a lot of really beautiful carving. It was a really richly decorated space, and it was because the order was very wealthy and they wanted to kind of show that in their church.
How would they have been raising money? Because they're an international order. They're not just here in London. They're
around Europe.
World.
Yeah.
They're not aligned with a particular king, or do they get in with the local monarch? Or?
They're closely related, but they sit separately to the royal court. And one of the ways they earn money is that when members of the order join, again, we spoke about how they were nobles, they were from wealthy families. They gave vows of poverty. They were allowed to spend their money in their lifetime, but when they died, the money
Everything
came
gets
to the
left
order.
To the order, I see.
These two pieces are supposedly from the Holy Sepulchre Church in Jerusalem. It looks like it could be. It's the right
plausible.
kind of stone.
Is that's a church that's going to date back to, what, the 3rd century? Or
Yeah, it's supposedly the site of Christ's tomb. And it's got a quite famous rounded nave. In fact, actually, it feels like
this is like Christmas. You just keep bringing bigger and bigger boxes.
It feels a bit of a crime to be talking about holy spaces and not talk about this church. This is a souvenir model of the Holy Sepulchre Church in Jerusalem. You can see things lift off. You can see the doors open. Little bits slide away. It's a bit like a doll's house, and you can get in there and have a look at all the little tiny details. But it is very rare. There are, I think, about 30 in the world still left. We have 3.
You have 3 models like this?
Yeah, 3 models. This one we have out for handling. So it's from kind of 17th, 18th century. Our other 2 are a little bit finer. We've got them on display in our galleries. So it's a little bit more embellished with things like mother of pearl. They're a bit bigger. But we keep this one out for handling so people can have an actual look inside, because that's what this object was made for. It was made to lift the lid and have a look at the different chapels within the church.
And it's architecturally true to
the actual
the one that was there. Mm-hmm. That stone we were just looking came from.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there today, or there is something there today, but it's nothing like that.
There is still today, and it's had. I think I'm right in thinking that it's had various iterations. It's kind of been added to these churches, though, and the 2 that we have in our gallery were made to a specification. So there was kind of an architect who wrote down the exact specification of the Holy Sepulchre Church, and then these models were made based on that. So it's very, very realistic. And they were made as souvenirs. Each one of these, so there's initials. So you've got CB here, CBA. It would come with a document, and it would kind of be labelled, and it'd tell you exactly what each chapel was called. And it's a souvenir. So I go on holiday and I bring my mum back a magnet. People went on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem and brought this back. I went to Jerusalem,
all I got was this Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah. And it's brilliant because, well, they would have it in like their drawing room, and it's a bit of a showing off, like, oh, you don't need to go on a pilgrimage because you can see the church in your neighbour's drawing room.
But it's quite early for like the grand tours.
Yeah, it's kind of people starting to, and people were doing quite a lot of pilgrimages.
Yeah.
Pilgrimages were a massive industry, essentially, and there was all sorts of people going on them as well. So the Order of St. John was there to provide aid to pilgrims if they needed it when they were in Jerusalem. But we see reports of men and women are kind of often left out of it. We have an object on display in our gallery that's a tombstone of a woman that was on a pilgrimage. And it's quite hard to have material culture. It's hard to have things to show of pilgrimage, especially kind of really early ones, but this is a really nice one to show. I think if you kind of think of films and popular culture, it's just kind of one man setting out on a journey to the Holy Land.
Exactly
it's
what
not.
I think.
It's not like that. It's not like that.
It's not. No, it's a huge caravan.
It's a huge. You'd be going with other, and when you were there, you were looked after, and you were looked after also by the Order of St. John. And actually, what I wanted to point out, the reason I got this out, is that this is a rounded nave.
Yeah, let's have a look.
So when you think about churches now, especially kind of the big European classical cathedrals, they're in that cross shape. But a rounded church, they face towards Jerusalem largely. Yeah. The round shape is supposed to be a direct link to God. But I'll talk a little bit more about round churches in a minute.
The link with the Knights Hospitalier with this church is because they were there during the Crusades and that's where they were based.
Yeah, they were based in Jerusalem, nearby the
Near
church.
the church.
So their hospital was in the Muristan, which is kind of the holy centre. I will entirely jump through history quite rapidly. Well, it's just in here. And this is a Axis incendiary bomb. I don't back.
See, this looks a lot more modern.
Actually, I think I've not got my gloves on me, so I shouldn't really touch metal. But on this kind of wing tip, it says made in 1941, and this is the bomb, one of the bombs that came through the roof of the church
chapel
in the Second World War, and entirely decimated it. So we're in the West Tower now, the West Tower of the Gate building. But this spiral staircase is original. So the Gate building is 1504. And this is quite unusual because it's a wooden spiral staircase. You see stone spiral staircases a lot, but not so much wooden. The lower steps were slightly repaired. These ones are original. We think it's the oldest surviving wooden spiral staircase in England. Nobody's told us that they've got an older one.
Right. Hi ChatGPT, what's the oldest wooden spiral staircase in England? Hey Hereticacious, the oldest wooden spiral staircase in England is widely believed to be the Newell staircase in the southwest tower of Canterbury Cathedral. What makes you say the Canterbury staircase is wooden? Oh, you're absolutely right to question that. That staircase is made of stone. Let me suggest some other staircases that are also not made of wood, or not spiral, or not on planet Earth at all. Blip!
But it's quite rare, and so if there was ever a fire...
You suddenly think, oh, that's why they made them of stone.
Yeah, that... So this is our highest point. And today it is a historical library. We have a really large collection of historic manuscripts. We've got a couple of them out, actually. So this might be a nice illustrated one. Yes, here we go.
Oh, look at that.
These are gorgeous. This one as well, the Knights of the Order of St. John.
Got everywhere.
They were all over the Mediterranean. So they kind of started in Jerusalem. When they were kicked out of Jerusalem, they went to Cyprus. Then they left Cyprus and they went to Rhodes. They left Rhodes and they went to Malta.
Yeah.
And the Order of St. John's 8-pointed cross symbol, which is on it's on all the medals, the insignia.
Yes, here we go.
That big cross. And people might recognise it as from the Maltese flag. But they were in Malta for a long time, and you'll see that as well in like Rhodes Old Town.
Was that picture there Malta, you think?
Yeah, it was either kind of Rhodes, Malta, and I think I'm right in thinking this is it's a bit like a travel guide. It's like a travel book, like A to Z of London, but of kind of hospitaller areas. And the colour, that was added later.
And then, you suddenly see these, well, look, there's half a man there.
Yeah.
Hang on, look.
Yeah, these are lovely. So these are just prints of Hogarth, the Idle Prentice series at the top, and the Industrious Prentice at the bottom. We have some prints of Hogarth because his father opened a coffee shop in the Gate building, but they could only speak in Latin. So it was obviously...
I mean, that's not Cafe Nero, is it?
Went out of business very quickly. I think he ended up
Why, I wonder, why?
He definitely at some point ended up in debtor's prison.
And it's so interesting how the gatehouse looks quite different. I don't think it's got the
It's not got the
bits.
crenellations on the top. No, it's not.
Crenellations is the correct word.
I think
Castle-y bits. not so perfect. Oh wow, what an amazing room.
Yeah, so this is the council chamber. So we're directly over the gatehouse now.
Yeah.
We've got beautiful stained glass. It's not actually that old. It's kind of early 20th century. This room is original. The panelling was put in again in the early 20th century, and the whole room is kind of surrounded by these memorial plaques. They're to important members of the modern Order of St. John.
these to individuals rather
Yeah.
than, and that's and these are their crests.
Their crest, yes. So this one, for example, is Edwina Countess Mountbatten of Burma. So she was incredibly important. She was involved with youth in the Order of St John.
What sort of year would that be? Oh, 1960.
So she died actually in service with the St John Ambulance Brigade, and she died while she was out on service.
Yeah, one of the Mountbattens, I assume, rather than a
Mountbatten. one of them, because it's the modern order is incredibly linked to the royals. So we've got these big portraits, especially this one of Queen Victoria. So the modern Order of St John is a royal chartered order. They came together in the early 19th century. And it wasn't until the late 19th century that they got their royal charter approved. That's what she's holding. The organisation set up the charity that you probably have heard of as more, St John Ambulance.
Yes.
So it's quite a long and convoluted history. It's a bit like a family tree, but it's like cousins of cousins of cousins.
What's the moment when it became the St John's Ambulance that we kind of know today?
St John Ambulance was 1887. They set up a charity to provide first aid and kind of the provision of first aid for people, and also training. So 1887, we're actually coming up to our 150th anniversary in 2027.
Wow.
Her son kind of petitioned Queen Victoria to give it a royal charter.
What's the consequence of that though? What does that do?
I'd say the main thing is it gives you...
It's like the brand.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of...
Seriousness.
You're taken more seriously, I think. Yeah. And it was a really important thing that first aid... Like this is before the NHS, a long way before the NHS. And St John Ambulance, training people how to deliver first aid, originally happened in places where there was no provision already and it was desperately needed. So places like mining, the mines, railways, where a lot of accidents were more likely to happen, and when they did, people didn't know what to do. So St John Ambulance provided that training for people so that if there was an accident while they were at work, they could be the first person on site, maybe stop bleeding until they could actually get to a doctor. And it's important today that without first aid, without somebody immediately seeing to a wound or an injury or an illness, people can't make it to a doctor because they've already died. So that's why kind of St John Ambulance is still such an important charity. St
John's Ambulance in that kind of modern incarnation founded itself. Did that break the link with the military?
So I'll show you something else. I'll show you something else because that'll tell the story a little bit better. On our way out there, I'll point this one out. So Florence Nightingale was made Lady Grace of the Order. Okay. So you become a member of the Order, the modern Order anyway, if you do exemplary work in medicine, kind of nursing, first aid.
This place is enormous.
I know. It doesn't look it from the outside. We're in Chapter Hall now. It looks internally very much how the council chamber looked, that kind of wood panelling. But this room and its interior dates from the early 20th century. But I wanted to show you this. This is one of our prize manuscripts. So this is the Mary Charter, but the dissolution of the monasteries was absolutely kind of catastrophic for churches in London. And Henry VIII shut it down. But then when Mary I came to the throne, she was Catholic. So she reopened the order, but not for very long. So she wrote this document saying, I, Mary, reopened the Order of St John and the Priory in London in Clerkenwell.
So this is Bloody Mary. Well, I mean, it's a loaded term, Bloody Mary.
But she was very devoutly Catholic, and she was so angry when her father closed the monasteries, and actually when he closed the priory here, he gave the site to Mary as one of her residences. So there are records that she came here with all of her staff. But this document reopens the priory. And then she dies maybe about 18 months after this is written.
Okay.
And then we're back to Protestantism with Elizabeth I.
What is this room used for?
So it's called the Chapter Hall, and chapter meetings happen in here. So a chapter meeting is...
So what was the other one called?
Council chamber.
That was council chamber.
Council
okay.
chamber. So the council chamber is actually the room, all sorts of stuff in that room, but was the room where the modern Order of St John kind of officially came into being. But the chapter hall was a place for chapter meetings, so people coming together and talking about how the organisation should be run. But this gentleman's my favourite, but it looks like he's doing a little... throwing a little... And actually, it looks kind of like he's holding a phone as well.
Right, okay, that's going on the clickbait.
Yeah. Time travelling order.
Time
travelling knights.
I think it's a modern flip phone that's come out this year. Yeah.
The Knights of the Order of St John, time travellers.
Oh, they're great pictures, aren't they?
Yeah, we've got some fantastic paintings in here, and especially actually when you come down, these paintings of battles, quite often in the Mediterranean, and that's something that we don't always tell the story of too well in the museum because we don't have objects to say it. The Knights Hospitaller were really kind of seafaring people. They were constantly going around the Mediterranean and there was constant battles with Islamic forces. You see things like them fighting corsairs, so kind of pirates, and all of these paintings are all really accurate, and it's a way of telling the story of naval warfare. So these are the galleries. We've got really fantastic objects stretching from antiquity to modernity, really. We tell the history of the Order of St John through its medieval origins, but also St John Ambulance and kind of the modern story as well. But I think we'll head over to the church now.
Sure.
We're inside the gatehouse building now.
We're now inside the old priory.
The inner precinct of the priory. Again, it's really hard to visualise that because there's loads of modern buildings and there's a huge road that runs through the middle of it.
I did wonder about that because that can't have been there.
Yeah, so that's Clerkenwell Road during 18th and 19th and 20th centuries is a really busy and popular area. It has all sorts of printing works.
Yeah, it's a kind of light industrial area.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is. And then it actually, a little bit later, becomes a really not nice place of London. You don't want to be walking around the streets of kind of Clerkenwell and Farringdon after dark.
Okay.
Respectable ladies would not be coming to Farringdon.
Well, now it's sort of the epitome of gentrified London. So.
Yeah, it is. And now Clerkenwell's really known for its design. Every year there's a big design festival, Clerkenwell Design Week. And just like walking around, there's like a kitchen shop there. Down this street, there's all sorts of different lighting shops and things like that. But now, finally, after all this, we've arrived at the church. But what I did want to say, when we had a look at the Holy Sepulchre model earlier, I pointed out that rounded nave and that direct connection to God.
Yes.
That's what this church was originally built like.
So this curve.
That's modern, but this paving here.
Oh.
Yeah, people never expect this. This paving here marks the original foundations of the rounded nave of the church. So again,
so I'm just going to take a step back because that
huge.
Gives you a sense of the extent, which is absolutely massive.
And it wouldn't have just been this rounded nave. Like on the Sepulchre model, the rounded nave doesn't actually make up that much of the church. It would have been a whole precinct. And around here, actually, where those Georgian townhouses are, but there was kitchens, there was a great hall for feasting, there was accommodation. So again, it's that hospitality.
So the whole priory, but the whole priory went around this square and then, yes.
And at its very centre, and the building that they built first, was the church.
Is the church.